There's been a lot of conversation about the overall impact of the Beltline as well, in terms of how many people are using it, development plans that have just happened and ones that are still to come, and the economic impact that this very popular place brings to our city as a whole. And for more on that, we're happy to bring in Kelvin Collins, the Vice President of Economic Development with the Beltline, to talk more about it. Coming off a busy weekend, I was actually on parts of the Beltline this weekend, and people were out enjoying it more than ever.
Absolutely. The Beltline has become an incredible destination for locals as well as tourists. But what's really important here is that the Beltline has been an economic engine for the city of Atlanta to the tune of $14 billion in private investment, as well as $23 million in economic output for the city. So in sheer numbers, that sounds incredible, right? But it's more than the numbers. It's about people. It's about connecting neighborhoods. It's about bringing opportunities and really reshaping the city of Atlanta.
Can you break down what that $23 billion represents for the city?
Absolutely. So think about the sum total of all the economic activity that's happening around the trail, right? When you take a walk on the trail and you visit a coffee shop, that's helping a small business. You look at all the jobs that are around the Beltline, the private development, whether that's affordable housing or commercial. So that's sum total of activity, all being catalyzed by the Atlanta Beltline infrastructure project. So that there hasn't been another project across the city or across the nation that is delivering this level of value as the Atlanta Beltline.
Given that, do you know of other cities, communities who are looking to the Beltline as maybe a prototype for something they might be able to do in their city?
Absolutely. We get calls almost every week with other cities, whether or not that's St. Louis or Miami or even New Orleans. They look to the Beltline as that example of what green infrastructure needs to look like, right? The interesting aspect of the Beltline is that we are addressing affordable housing, we're addressing small business support, we're addressing quality of life. It's a very comprehensive project. But what's also important is that the Beltline is repopulating parts of the city that has not seen growth for several decades. And so as other cities across the country look to address growth in their urban environment, the Beltline is solving for that. And many of those cities are looking to the Beltline to do just that. So we're bringing growth, but we're really doing it in a very thoughtful way that focuses on people.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. It's really about bringing some people back to the city core. I was reading 26,000 residents since that 2010 planning process. Is that true, that you can attribute the Beltline to bringing in nearly 30,000 people to live once again in that area?
Absolutely. So the Beltline is doing what I call transforming vacant land into vibrant spaces, right? So think about on the west side of Atlanta, Lee Plus White used to be this vacant warehouse row. And it's now a destination for small businesses. It's also a destination for a healthcare facility. You can actually have a meeting with a technology company that we like so much on the Beltline called Carbice. And then you can step outside and have a taco at El Tesoro, all on the west side of Atlanta. So we're bringing community together. We're attracting people. And we're really creating this community life that did not exist, that have suffered through disinvestment. And that's why people are now attracted back to the Atlanta Beltline and back to the city as a whole.
And there are so many tentacles to the projects in place. We do want to mention that, lighting, cameras, safety, those are all a big part of those planning processes. And interesting, as people are following the case that just happened, actually very close to the 11 Live studios here on the Beltline, that the camera system in place actually helped catch the man now charged in that crime. There have been 318 projects already. Is that where the count stands now?
Absolutely. And that number continues to increase significantly. One of the things that's interesting about the Beltline is that it has the ingredients that's very attractive to people and businesses. So you think about companies like MailChimp and OneTrust. Those companies are seeing the Beltline as a destination, not just for their business, but for their employees. And that's really what a modern city is becoming: walkable, right? You want to have restaurants, you want to have culture, you want to have a quality of life. And those projects are destinationed around the Beltline. So wherever the Beltline goes, investment follows. And that's really what we've seen since 2005. So 300 projects in the pipeline is just a conservative number, and we're going to continue to see that increase in the coming years.
You talk about walkable. I think that always piques people's interest, but maybe now more than ever with the price of gas. And you add expensive gas with Atlanta traffic, and being able to walk anywhere becomes more and more valuable.
Absolutely, and when you can do that as a young person, maybe you're looking to catch up with your friends. Maybe it's after school. Maybe you're an APS school student, or maybe you're trying to grab groceries, or maybe you're trying to get to the pharmacy. One of the things we found is that of the 2.5 million visits on the Beltline, 60% of those are from locals. So what exactly does that mean? It means that Atlantans, more so than tourists, are actually appreciating this amenity. And that to us is what the Beltline is about, right? It's intended to bring Atlanta together, take cars off the street, right? Create a new healthy environment. And we're seeing that in the everyday use of the Beltline by the local Atlantans.
And talk about the number of visits, because this becomes part of a lot of people's everyday or every weekend routine.
Absolutely. So, last week I was on the trail, and, in any given minute, someone is riding a bike. Someone is going to get groceries. Someone is actually strolling with a friend. You even have individuals that are using, a wheelchair to be on the Beltline. It's really becoming the front porch for Atlanta, or maybe the living room of Atlanta. And when we envision, what the Beltline can be, this is the story. This is the story. And we really have to credit, those who initially conceived the Beltline, right? Like, there are so many aspects of it. But one thing that makes the Beltline special is that it's focused on people. And we're seeing that in how people are using it for their everyday use. And that, to us, is what keeps the Beltline an incredible aspect and an asset for the city of Atlanta.
What is next in the plans? What can people expect?
That's a great question. So a couple of things. I would say first, we're racing to complete the 22-mile loop around the Beltline. That's going to happen before 2030. But more importantly and more immediate is World Cup is right around the corner. In less than 30 days, we're going to have World Cup games right here in Atlanta. And quite frankly, we believe that when someone asks, how do I experience the authentic Atlanta? They're going to look to the Beltline, okay? And so we're going to have a 2-day festival on the South Side Trail on June 20th and 21st. And it's going to be a great community celebration. There's going to be live performances. There's going to be arts. There's going to be DJs. There's going to be watch party. And so we're going to celebrate the Beltline. Safety is going to be a top priority of ours, and we encourage everyone to come out and celebrate the Beltline, celebrate community, and celebrate the World Cup when it starts the middle of June.
I know. I have to ask, I know this is not your area because you're focused on economic development, but given the tragedy that happened, is there more safety in place for some of those special events you're talking about, or what is that conversation now around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Beltline is one of the safest places in Atlanta. I mean, you heard it from Chief Sherbaum. And we are very committed to working with the City of Atlanta and Atlanta Public Police Department. They are the ones leading all efforts related to safety on the Beltline. And we're going to beef that up as part of Beltline Fest. We're going to have a plan that's focused on ensuring safety and public care, and that those are going to be key elements of the plan for Beltline Fest. So we encourage everyone to come out, celebrate, and be part of Beltline Fest on June 20th and 21st.
Yes, both Chief Shearbaum and Mayor Andre Dickens were very deliberate in telling the community that overall, with millions of visits that happen, the number of incidents is very low from the mayor's perspective and from the police chief's perspective, so a little bit of additional safety. How excited are you for what's to come, even beyond World Cup, as this loop continues to come closer to being complete?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the economic impact we're seeing today is just the start. The Beltline is reshaping the future of Atlanta. And when it's completed, I'll tell you, this will be one of the most incredible transformation that Atlanta will see. And the Beltline will be at the center of the future of what that looks like.
So as we're talking about coming full circle, I'm thinking back to the start of our interview when you were talking about $23 billion of economic impact from where we are now. When you look from your perspective of what those dollars can mean for a community, is there anything else in the city that is doing that, like a return on investment kind of situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. 15-to-1 return on investment is unheard of. So we've invested just about $900 million in the project, and we're seeing $14 billion in return. The Beltline is the most powerful and incredible economic engine for the city, and we will like to continue to see that deliver value for, again, not just for the economic impact, but for the people whose lives are being transformed. So there's nothing like the Atlanta Beltline.
All right, and you'll have to give us a heads up if any of these other cities decide to implement our idea. It's kind of nice to be on the forefront of these kind of things.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that anybody listening here has a chance to understand about this, especially if they might live in the outskirts, if they're outside the perimeter? Do you find that it draws people into the city as well?
It certainly does. And again, with 2.5 million visits, we know that a lot of locals and regional visits are actually happening. But I'll tell you, one of the things that's incredibly important to note as well is that the Beltline is doing way more than just attracting tourists or attracting investment. We are helping everyday small businesses bring their ideas to life. So if you walk on the trail, you're going to see a handful of shipping containers, right? That's our Beltline Marketplace program. Right? If you look at the housing development that's happening along the Beltline, that's residents benefiting from the project. So again, when you think of the Beltline, yes, it's an economic engine, but it's a people driver, and that's the most exciting part of the work.
And you had mentioned this a little earlier, but I want to revisit this before we let you go, because affordable housing is such a deeply critical conversation happening around Metro Atlanta right now. And I think a lot of people's perspective is anything around the Beltline might be out of reach, too expensive. How much is that affordability conversation around housing a part of the plans that are in motion?
It is part of the core mission. In fact, the original vision of the Beltline included affordable housing. And one of the things we're doing today is that we've achieved upwards of 70% of the goal. So over 4,000 affordable housing units has been delivered, right, as part of the Beltline project. We have actually went ahead and acquired land to bring even more affordability in the near future. So we own currently close to 100 acres of land that will bring affordability on the residential side as well as affordability on the commercial side. So we're doubling down, we're extremely committed, and we want to make sure that the Beltline works for everyone here in Atlanta.
All right, Kelvin Collins, Vice President of Economic Development for the Beltline. Appreciate the updates on all the projects and the plans here around the World Cup and in the future, and it's something we'd love to stay in touch about.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.